In this digital era, can you imagine that when we want to open a grocery store, what can you consider the most? Is it the market or product and payment method? Or is it the needs of different users? All those worries can be solved with the help of WeChat Pay. Just like the founder said, values of users, tech for good. We fully utilize the advantages of WeChat Pay to come up with these ideas. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Rebecca, joined by my colleagues Rita, Sandra, and Kathy. We represent Fudan University to present you the case study of WeChat Pay. Here is the title, Better Customer Service by Building a WeChat SME Digital Hub. First, in overview, let's see some opportunities and challenges. There are mainly two opportunities. The first one is WeChat Pay has high active users. In December 2021, the global combined monthly active users, MAU, was 1,268 million. When compared with last year, it has increased 3.5%. Second one is the need of SMEs. In 2021, number of SMEs is around 29 million. It is an increase of around 30% from 2020. This indicates that the amount of transaction and payment will increase drastically. Aside from that, we discovered that the most crucial part of SME is to survive and earn and profit. Let's take a look at the challenges. The first challenge the company facing is the payment confirmation challenge. Well, one part is that the traceability, where when amount is incorrect during paying the bill, it is difficult or even impossible to trace back. And it is inevitable that the whole paying process is time-consuming. Receivers need to spend time to check WeChat Pay to ensure a correct amount. Last is interruption and errors, in which the entire money receiving process of a merchant can be easily interrupted by phone calls, internet, and etc. And the payment of personal and business are mixed together with errors frequently. Second is lack of IT skills. From the case, we can see that online service found that 12% of merchants did not require IT skills. It underlines that although WeChat Pay contains lots of valuable data like consumption habit, amount, and the frequency, etc., it has not yet been activated or utilized. Last but not least, SMEs' lack of ability to cope with changes. It is undoubted that SMEs have high failure rate. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, approximately 20% of small business fail within the first year, and by the end of second year, 30% of them will also fail. By the end of fifth year, about half of them will fail. It shows that SMEs have short survival time. For example, we found that after the outbreak of the pandemic, and the SMEs generally suffered a negative impact, mainly reflected in decline of operating revenue and the rise of production costs, and also the withdrawal of some SMEs from the market. Next, my colleagues Rita and Kathy will talk about the strategy.
Okay, now let's take a look at our strategy. After analyzing the current situation and problem faced by the company, our plan is to build a WeChat digital hub for SMEs and take advantage of all the data collected during the transaction process. Given that one of the specific challenges that SME team need to overcome is the payment confirmation challenge. For SMEs, as the merchants usually don't have enough time to check the WeChat Pay account every time the customer make a purchase. It's sometimes difficult and even impossible to trace the customers when the amount of money is incorrect. The skipped payment will cause great damage to small business owners. It's unlikely and also inconvenient for the phone holder to stay in the store all the time. Also, mobile phone broadcasts can help. It doesn't work all the time as the business owners are usually very busy and may miss some broadcasts in a noisy environment. Moreover, the personal payment confirmation is usually mixed with the business payment confirmation, making the situation more complex. According to this problem, our first solution is to set up a background data center. When a customer makes a purchase, the amount of money will be recorded in the database. The abnormal transaction will be automatically recognized using the technology of machine learning. For example, if the average amount paid by the individual customer in a store is around 75 RMB, when a customer enters the store and only pays 0.5 RMB, WeChat payment will detect it and remind the merchant to check the amount again. To solve the problem of tracing customers, we plan to use blockchain technology. In this way, the business record will be clearly stored and the personal transaction and the business transaction can be easily divided. Merchants can trace each transaction and address the error in WeChat payment system when the amount is incorrect. The blockchain technology can also protect the customer's personal information from leaking.
And then regarding the second problem of the lack of IT skills among small and medium-sized business owners, our solution is to help them by sending them weekly reports of their transactions. It can be observed that huge amount of financial data is available on WeChat and SME owners have access to it actually. But the problem lies in the fact that these business people find it hard to leverage the data to improve their business, or that they simply don't have enough time to do this. We can see in the example of Mrs. Liu, who ran a small apparel business using WeChat with a customer base of over 1,000 members. Every day, she had to prepare advertisement for new products, answer customers' inquiries, sort out order information, and even took care of her daughter. Her day ends until very late at night, and she's not alone. The weekly report can help a lot when it comes to dealing with mountains of financial records and the corresponding data. We can plan to offer this service for free at first, and the SME business owners, once registered for the service, can receive a much more visible and readable version of the organized data that indicates whether they are gaining profits. WeChat Pay then acts like a translator that helps translate the data into knowledge for those in need of help to handle sophisticated financial records. Moreover, we propose a consulting service to cope with the third problem. We can see that a crucial difference between SMEs and big corporations is that the former are much more vulnerable to changes in the market. And here's how we think a consulting service should help. On the ground that the reports we've mentioned earlier is sent to some SME owners to increase for them while it's very helpful for them, customer stickiness of WeChat Pay's business is expected to increase. Moving forward, WeChat Pay can deep dive into how data can be continued to be activated. With owners' permission, WeChat Pay can help monitor product SKUs, sales, and transaction data of the business to give the business owner timely advice or solution plans. For example, purchasing, pricing, and even the location of their new store. These advice will be given according to SME owners' special needs, and this consultancy will help them see the changes in the market and help them respond to the changes quickly. And all of these services are expected to be found in the digital hub in WeChat Pay, which we believe will empower small and medium-sized enterprise owners to build a sustainable business.
Thanks for Cassie and Rita's illustration for our strategy. Then comes the implementation part. Next slide, please. By leveraging the digital hub services, SMEs would have a chance to capture more data to analyze and chance to consider, which is unreachable for them before. This would help them overcome some of the main difficulties in operating small business, including the payment security and traceability, long-term observation for the dynamic changes. On one hand, making full use of data value would remind them of potential risks and give the SMEs some suggestions since the SMEs are usually vulnerable if they react too late to the challenges. On the other hand,
Data analysis and storage are valuable for SMEs' sustainable development. They can learn lessons from the past performance and improve themselves. To sum up, our strategy can empower SMEs' growth in both lifespan and quantity, which realizes our original goal: help SME achieve more sustainable growth in the long term. Next slide. Next slide, please. In addition to the benefit brought to the SME sustainability, WeChat Pay itself can simultaneously gain advantages. Our all-round transaction-related data services would attract more small-sized enterprises to switch from the individual mode, WeChat Pay, to the business mode. Also, it will extract some commission fee. The further services are definitely worth the cost. Thus, we can have a closer cooperation with SMEs, meanwhile increasing the user base and retention rate because of the high switching costs once they choose WeChat Pay as the data storage platform. On top of that, in the long run, we would also promote some high value-added upgraded services such as consulting and report subscription, which creates new revenue streams. Next slide, please. According to the strategy we have put forward, we designed a detailed execution plan. In year one, we should focus on the data hub construction, which is the foundation for our services. From year two, we can promote the services in multiple channels to attract more SMEs to join. For example, nowadays, more and more SMEs prefer to choose the live streaming platforms to sell. We can focus on our value-added services in WeChat Pay and increase the connections with SMEs by advertising on these channels. In year three and beyond, since we have captured their existing data, the high switching costs will bind WeChat Pay and SMEs together. What we should do is to provide satisfying and high-quality services to maintain them. Also, we can extend to some customized consulting services for SMEs to choose. The detailed service promotion timeline is shown on the right. Next slide, please. Next, we would like to make the financial estimation for our strategy. The WeChat payment value-added services package we launched is divided into three main charging models. One is to extract the service commission from WeChat Pay transactions. The second is to sell a subscription-based report for SMEs. And the third is to provide customized consulting services to support SMEs' long-term development. With the policy support for SMEs in recent years, its number continues to grow rapidly and is expected to reach 45 million in 2025. Among them, 30% of SMEs will choose to empower their own growth through subscription reports, and 10% of SMEs will reach cooperation with Tencent, allowing Tencent to provide consulting services to help their long-term transformation and sustainable development. The increase in user base and penetration rate will finally bring a total revenue increase of 52 billion RMB in the value-added service package. Next slide, please. Despite the benefits, we cannot ignore the potential risks waiting for Tencent's WeChat Pay. One risk is about the personal information security regulations. Take Tencent's main market, mainland China, as an example. Promotions of security regulations such as PIPA are paying increasing attention to the protection of personal data. When our strategy is based on the usage of payment data, how can we deal with this issue? We suppose it depends on the technical enhancement. By protecting data securities from linking and using some specific model iteration tags, such as federated learning, we can avoid the data storage issue and promise the stable operations. Another risk lies in the potential competition with other payment services providers like Ali and online bank. Despite the fact that payment services are generally homogeneous, Our synergy with WeChat itself can be the core competence. Compared with others, WeChat is closer to the 2C market, which is valuable for SMEs to capture. By putting forward more value-added services relying on WeChat, it would be a unique source for WeChat Pay. That's all for our presentation. Thanks for your listening. Welcome for your questions and suggestions.
Okay, thank you very much, Team Fudan University, for your presentation. It's now time for the Q&A session. Just a reminder to our judges to please leave your feedback and thoughts for the feedback session and just focus on short and concise questions in this session. Judges, the floor is yours. Please ask your first question.
Thank you, team. I have a question for you guys. I want to know if you have a specific segment of SME that you want to start with. And have you thought about how to onboard those micro SME? How are you going to onboard them, especially those who are very small or in a very remote location with the limited access to internet?
I think I want to represent my team to answer this question first. And yes, we do realize that there are different segments of SME companies, right? Because there are stores like the supermarket just near your house, or there are SME companies that are just high tech and invented and built by young people. We hope that our strategy at first can both benefit every segment of them, because you can see it's actually a little bit thorough, and it can cater to different kinds of segments of the SME companies. However, we think that we recognize the second problem of lack of IT skills. So we believe that our target was at first more focused on those who are not the young ones, who are not so tech have so much high tech skills. So we think that maybe stores who the examples that mentioned in the cases, like the lady who ran the apparel store just all by herself, and maybe the couple who were selling just pancakes near your house. Probably those ones are the ones we want to target at first. And we think that this digital hub actually can help also the ones who are young people who wanted to start their own business, and their business may include some more sophisticated and high-tech elements. And we think that regarding the second question, I'm sorry, I kind of forgot about the second question. Can you elaborate a little bit more?
No problem. I asked you about how about those micro SME who's really small, lack of resources and lack of connection. Maybe they are in some remote area. How are you going to help them?
So I think my teammates have mentioned in the implementation part that some of the people here in China, especially those who are very remote, have actually becoming more and more interested in entertainment forms like live stream. And we believe that in order to include them, actually, it's part of the promotion plan. And about that, we think that leveraging the forms that they are happy to use and they are frequently using can actually help in this field. For example, live streams, we can promote our products using, or even TikToks that many of the people in those village, which is a little bit remote, are actually frequently using right now. And I think maybe Sandra can also help me with this because it's about the implementation.
Yes. Hello, judges. Can you help me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, I want to make some compensation for Cassie's answer because we have mentioned a lot of micro shop owners, they are in the remote areas. But from our observation, their biggest difficulty is not about they lack the connections with the networks because as we all know, the penetration rate of the network of the mobile apps are absolutely high recently since the TikToks and other apps are everywhere in our life. But the biggest difficulty for them to use the WeChat Pay is that they think it's too complex and it may cause some safety problems like if we see the cash, we can see how much we really accept, but from the digital way, they cannot see and maybe someone will cheat them and deliberately send them a relatively low bill and they may cause some loss. So we designed the traceability, we designed a digital hub to help deal with the traceability. So it's more accurate and high efficient for them to use the digital way, to use the WeChat Pay instead of the cash. This is what we can attract them from using the WeChat Pay. That's my answer. Thanks.
Okay, maybe a follow-on question on there's a lot of talk about, I think your main solution is to have a data, to manage data better and all that, right? And then you want to roll this out, span of 3 years. You didn't talk about the cost of it. Have you considered what sort of cost that WeChat needs to have, and hence, what is your break even, in terms of that? You talked about revenues, that, how you're going to get revenues in, but there's the cost element of it, and do you think that your competitors are also doing this, your Alipay and all that, in terms of the solutions?
Okay, I will answer the question on behalf of our team. So, yes, this page, we have considered about the revenue more carefully, and from the cost side, we have made some general estimations for them. Since our main cost is based on the digital hub construction, which is more related to the business payments, business sections. And the second one is about the consulting, because as we all know that Tencent has been paying attention on how to build a digital accounting book, or I don't know how to say that, from several years ago. This is what they have paying attention to for a very long time. So we think it's not a sudden investment, and it can invest some more like day by day or year by year. We think if we pay more attention to the digital hub construction, it will increase some of the R&D investment, some R&D costs from the very beginning, like 50 to 60% increase in our very beginning short-term investment and cost. But in the long run, we think we can sustain it, since much more SMEs are joining this, and this what use a lot of costs, like to retain the customers, since they have a relatively high switching cost. And for the second question about how it can compete with Ali, we think it's because it's synergy with the WeChat platform, as we mentioned in the risk and mitigation. This is what WeChat have, but not instead of Ali have. Like, we use WeChat every day. We have the chats, we have the locations, we have everything on the WeChat. Actually, our frequency to use the WeChat platform is much more frequent than we use Ali. This is what we call the 2C data, which is better, which is more useful for the 2C customers, like the we have mentioned before, the small shop owners in the remote areas, they don't need a lot of data on the Ali, but they have a lot of users using the WeChat to chat or use other functions. So this is what we think is core competence lies in. Thanks.
And I think I want to add up a little bit something to Sandra's answer about the second question about the competitive advantage. I totally agree with her. And I think that since WeChat is actually, it began as a social media. So all the traffics there are actually is actually private, and we know that private traffic is much more sticky than public traffic like Alipay. So we think that once we've attracted enough customers to use our products, they will stick to our products. And as she said before, the switch cost will be high. And yeah, I think, and that's a little bit supplementary from me. Thank you.
Okay, I also want to add up something to my team members' answer. According to the given material, the WeChat Pay has already developed a lot of functions according to the SMEs. And what we are trying to do now is to make our service better. And according to the exist technology like AI and also the machine learning and what I have mentioned, the blockchain technology, which is already developed in the WeChat payment. So what we need to do is just to apply those technology and make the service better. And we think comparing to other companies which haven't focused on the SME company, we have a lot of competitiveness. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know whether Jamie, I'm interested if Jamie, do you have any questions specifically? Or?
Yes, yes, I do. Thanks, Kelvin. I think just going back on problem number 2, where you mentioned that there is a lack of IT skills, I wanted to understand from the team because the solution can be quite intimidating to explain to the market that you are trying to attract, right? Like a lot of the older people who own small businesses in the provinces, and then your core strategy is on having like a data hub, and for very simple things already on the WeChat, all of the changes that have happened on WeChat, they still couldn't seem to figure it out quite well. So how and you talked about, you know, educating them perhaps on TikTok, but again, this is a completely different group of people who may not necessarily be spending a lot of time on those platforms. What is your strategy for that segment to try to make sure that you address this problem with a specific strategy that you had in mind?
Thank you for your question. It's actually a very great question. We recognize the second problem just specifically because we realize those old people who are not who don't have enough skills. And we think that actually they are right now using WeChat Pay a lot. It's just that they don't leverage the data to the fullest. For example, when you make transactions, WeChat will send you notifications that who give you how much money, and they will even you can even set up some vocal voices that will remind you when you receive the transactions. We think that the problem is for them, they don't have the ability to sum up some of these transaction data, summarize them, and then to see the logic in those transactions, and to see the repeated transactions. For example, if it's from one people who constantly visit their stores, then our report will tell them that, okay, you have a repeated customer, which means that you can maybe try to retain your customers. And maybe if your transactions are all from new customers, maybe then you need to consider about whether you should try make more efforts to retain them. So we think that the problem is not actually about teaching them how to use WeChat, because it's a whole completely different problem. We think that the problem is to teach them how to use WeChat Pay, how to use the resources we are available right now to they are available right now to access, and how to see the changes and the patterns in the transactions of their business. And also I want to add up something about whether the elderly people or the ones who are remote actually don't have the habit of using TikTok or live stream short video apps. Actually, we have seen reports that show that these group of people are actually the ones who are increasingly using them, and their time of using them is much more higher, even sometimes much more longer than the young people nowadays. And we've seen this in the report of the silver hair and the report of the people who are living in remote places in the second and third tier cities, and they're actually very potential. If we plan to promote our products on TikTok or on those short video live stream platforms, we think that's it may be successful somehow. Yeah, and I think that's
okay. Thank you, Shiryan, for your answer. The time is up. Thank you very much, Team Fudan, for your presentation and the Q&A session.